Hey everyone, what's up? It's your host Drew from the Drewsperience, the white autistic Charles Barkley. Yes, that's how I introduced myself. And today's guest, normally before I get into today's guest, it's Christmas Eve. I wanted to do something different, and I'm very privileged and honored that he was kind enough to give me a Christmas gift of his time because he is one of my favorite political commentators, standing at 6'1", hailing from Western Canada, giving political haymakers on conservatism and bringing back common sense. Yes, there's common sense. He's the one, the only from the National Telegraph, Wyatt Claypool. Big honor. Welcome to the show, Wyatt.
You make me sound like we fought in like we met in a fighting gym or something like that. You know all my stats.
Well, hey, listen, I mean, the show is normally a martial arts-based show, but I'm taking it kind of to a different direction where I'll still do it, but I like to do other things too to change it up in order to continue making videos. Because if you're doing the same thing over and over again, I'm of the belief you need to take a break sometimes or just change it up a little bit.
Yeah. I like the name Drewsperience. I wish I had something catchy like that. But, I don't think there's anything I can do to end up being stupid sounding like it's the Wyatt Zone or whatever.
No.
I'm still pretending I'm a network.
No, that's what hey, look, you have to do what works for you. For me, it came out of COVID and the lockdowns because, I'm from Quebec, Quebekistan, more or less. Bad joke, because they had the harshest lockdown measures during COVID. And, so when I was with my friend, I was like, hey, what should I call my show? He said, well, make it your name. So that's where it started. But I am going to be rebranding it. It's still the Drewsperience, but I'm just changing a few things in it. But it's still going to be with my name in it. And that's the way to go in order to, have a show. That's how I feel. But hey, to each their own.
Fair enough.
So, you're obviously killing it with the National Telegraph on YouTube, over 25,000 subscribers. And guys, make sure to help him hit 100,000 because otherwise he owes people dinner. So
Yeah,
that's the goal.
In December of next year, I made the stupidest bet ever, but the whole point is to put the fear into you. Because what makes you work harder than a goal where you get something big at the end is a goal where you get horrifyingly punished if you don't meet the goal. And so I'm trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by next year, some random date in December when my friends all have our pre or post Christmas dinner. And if I don't have 100,000 subscribers by that point in the plaque or whatever, then I owe them all dinner. If I win the bet, they just have to buy me dinner, which is $50, I guess. So I owe them either $250 or they owe me $50. But it puts that fear into you to keep working harder so you don't owe them at the end of the year.
That's amazing. So how did you get started with the National Telegraph? Before all this, what led to getting into politics and media for you?
Well, for the National Telegraph, what started that was spite. Because I used to work at the Post Millennial for a few months. It was 4 or 5 months in 2019. I became the UFC conservative club president. Another guy I was the MRU conservative club president. I went to UFC later on in Calgary. But MRU conservative club president, I was invited by the UFC conservative club president to start writing for the Post Millennial. I wrote honestly few dozen articles, maybe 4 dozen articles. It was a good amount of content I put out despite basically being paid nothing. And at one point I was quite literally fired for contradicting the reporting of a star reporter that they had who frankly didn't do a very good job. And so I got fired for that because I questioned the owner even though he wasn't doing anything. It's a very long and stupid story. And so then after that, I'm like, well, I'll just start up my own site. I know how to write articles now. And so I started out with a bunch of random people. There's 7 or 8 of us at the start. And then it used to be called the New Telegraph for a couple months. And then after flip-flopping around for 2 months, it got changed to the National Telegraph. And then a bunch of owners fell off. And now it's basically just myself and Daniel Boardman. And Daniel's usually busy with a lot of other things. He's, I believe, about to go film a documentary in India this January about Khalistani terrorism. Mm-hmm. And so that's all neat and whatnot. But so during COVID, we started the National Telegraph in February of 2020. And so that was nice for a couple of months of doing normal news stuff before COVID struck. And then after that, it was nice because I was stuck in my house so often that I could actually have something to do, and besides, sit at home or go to work. And so for 3.5 years, we wrote articles, did a lot of investigations, a lot of opinion type stuff, some generic reporting, some investigative stories, all that stuff. And then towards the end of 2023, Justin Trudeau comes out with Bill C-18 and it gets implemented, the Online News Act, and I can no longer even access my National Telegraph Facebook page. It has like 75,000 followers. It wasn't like chump change. And I put tons of money into advertising that thing. I've probably dumped in thousands to it. And then so because of all this, Justin Trudeau forced me to go onto YouTube. So after a collective 4 years of just writing online, I was then forced to go and, start up a YouTube channel and ramble into a camera.
Yeah, I understand. That sucks to hear, especially with all the work you put in. Speaking of that, Bill C, it's a question I have, and I can't seem to get an answer whenever I ask, like those within the conservative realm. Is it going to be reappealed, like once Poilievre gets in? Because Poilievre says we should have a free internet and this and that, and I'm hoping he's saying the right things. But it's like, there was a video on Canada Proud of a girl in the territories that said, I cannot get news because of this bill. And I'm hoping that that would change. So do you think that's going to be one of the things that Pierre will axe once he gets into office? Or is it just rhetoric?
Oh, 100%. I think on that one, that's an easy layup for the Conservative Party. It's just because, again, it's affecting them too. Because the reason that the Liberals support Bill C-18 and they passed it is not because I don't think they really care about getting journalists paid. Mm-hmm. Even their definition of getting journalists paid is just the CBC getting another like $50 million more and like Global and CTV sharing it. It's complete nonsense. But I think the real goal of C-18 was to basically ask Facebook Meta for more than they were willing to give to keep Canadian content on the platform. Mm-hmm. Again, the estimate was somewhere around $50 million that Meta would have to give to these Canadian legacy media companies every year. Not a dime would go to the National Telegraph, would go to True North, Rebel, Western Standard, any of those ones. But what Trudeau wanted was basically to extort Facebook into saying, well, we're just not going to do Canadian news, and then have all Canadian news removed from Facebook, because you can kind of see how who cares if the CBC gets thrown off? They don't have any effect really on politics. You want True North, Western Standard, National Telegraph, Post Millennial, all of these organizations not on Facebook because they're actually influential. So you're basically sacrificing complete duds of legacy media sources to get rid of actually influential conservative sources.
Yeah, it's really dangerous. It's like, because that's basically, I don't want to sound extreme here or hyperbolic, but that's similar to like a soft version of totalitarianism and censoring the news.
Yeah, and that's also what C11 wants to do, and then even more so C63, that anti-hate speech like act or whatever, where it's going to go after people for thinking things, because you can report a neighbor for having the risk of committing a hate speech crime, and then they can be like ankle monitored and put under house arrest. It's insane.
It's really ridiculous. Like, it's just every time the Liberals try to sell it off, it's like, just say you want to be a police state. Just say you want to go to Minority Report, because that's where we're heading, it feels. And it's like what if I share like an offensive meme, or I say something to one of my friends, and it's because, like, let's all be real, none of us are politically correct. We all have, it's like the friendships are not real if you're not roasting or saying pretty heinous comments. And I'm worried that it's like, this is just a way to police speech in terms of like getting people to stay in line.
Well, it's a tool for them in the sense that I don't think that they, even with C63, it's a horrible bill, obviously. I don't think they immediately start sending police informants around to stand behind people at the mall and see if you say anything wrong and then arrest you. It would just be a tool more so for them to go after any high profile people that they want to harass and to silence, that, this person's a problem, they have a lot of clout and momentum, so you can dull their momentum or use this to discredit them because, wow, they were charged under this act or whatever. And there's a lot of people who, regardless of how bad things get, very much think like that. Oh, well, did you hear that this person was fired for not like following lockdowns, for not following mandates? There's tons of people like that who just think that, well, a judge said. It's like, well, who cares? It's a stupid law. And you violate a stupid law and you're like you're like punished for it. Well, the judge said. It's like, shut up. I see that stuff all the time. I always hate it when they're like, well, like did you see the commissioner said that the Emergencies Act was totally justified. The commissioner said. I'm like, okay, but was it really? Or are we just gonna be stupid? Also, these people don't actually like real judges when they like end up putting criminals away for like decades in prison. They don't care about what the judge said when it was like a murderer gets put onto death row. They're like, oh no, oh my goodness, let him come back. He's so nice. He's just Aladdin.
It's ridiculous, honestly. It's like the Canada. Like, look, say what you want about Stephen Harper, and I'm sure you have your opinions too. I mean, I didn't like him for no one said they liked Harper for his personality, but they liked him for his policy. He did do a lot of good policy economically, but it's like this is like what he warned us about, and the Emergencies Act. Now they're coming out saying, "Oh yeah, now it's unconstitutional," because I guess now that they're reading the tea leaves of like what people thought. And I mean, were you at the convoy by any chance, or were you doing?
No,
it
I was. I was stuck working because that goes into I've been sued 2 times in terms of lawsuits I had to pay for myself in terms of the defense. One of them is ongoing, so I was stuck at work, paying 90% of my paycheck into my legal fees. But Daniel Boardman was there, and then one of our kind of third partner was on the ground in the Freedom Convoy because he was the Freedom Convoy spokesperson, Benjamin Dichter.
Yeah, he was amazing. Yeah, like I love
everyone.
that guy.
Oh my. Everyone retroactively tries to blame Benjamin for things that he didn't do wrong. He was one of the only people who had his head screwed on straight in convoy leadership. Outside of all the people who were like road captains, they did a really good job. There are so many people who just like attached themselves to like convoy HQ, and because they just wanted attention.
Okay, yeah.
DJ did it perfectly. Yeah. We're doing once a week. We're going to do a press conference only with the independent media, and that's it. And we just wait here and make Justin Trudeau like act. And then all these other people are running around setting their hair on fire, trying to do press conferences with like legacy media every 5 seconds. Like, guys, stop it. Stop being microphone drunk. What are you doing? It's like we have the winning hand here. We sit here, we let Justin Trudeau be the problem. We don't even honk, but we just sit here and have barbecues, and then we'll let them figure it out. Mm-hmm. Stop feeling like you have to say stuff. It's like you guys need a lawyer who will tell you to shut up. And they had lawyers, and it was like people from the JCCF basically encouraging them to do more press conferences. And if you ever want to, my joke I always say is that if I'm ever in a lawsuit again, I'm going to hire the JCCF to be my opponent's lawyers. They are not good.
No,
they have not won a case in years.
Yeah, no, but Benjamin, because I want to ask this about the convoy, because everyone seems to attach themselves to Tamara Lich. But Benjamin doesn't get the love he deserves because he was basically the brain behind it. Why is that? Why is it that people cater to Tamara? And there's nothing wrong against Tamara. I think she did great. But Benjamin deserves credit too.
This is one of those things where I don't say it that publicly. Tamara didn't do anything. Okay. Tamara sat in her hotel room and cried the entire time, and every once in a while came out to a press conference to pretend like she was organizing anything. That's my hyper controversial thing on Tamara. And she's like, people will be like, she was in prison for 40 days. If you know you're going to write a book that's going to be a bestseller, anyone would be in a prison for 40 days. She's not exactly Nelson Mandela here. And so like, yeah. And like BJ put together the entire media strategy, had basically put forward the sort of the game plan for keeping everything nice and calm, because that's what we need to do. How do we actually get this victory across the finish line? And Tamara was willing to listen to every single person saying, no, we got to make a statement about how you got to get to Ottawa now. Your freedoms are going to be gone. It's like, no, guys, calm it down. Turn down the volume a little bit. Let's keep it cool, because we don't need to say anything crazy right now. We just need to get the win. And that was one of those things where, that this is a really deep cut for this podcast. Tamara even threatened to sue me subtly in the background when we were just asking why she was interfacing with the Ottawa mayor and the chief of police on agreeing to move trucks before the day that the police came in and beat people and whatnot. That her and Tom Marazzo and all these other people were like working with the city to move trucks in such a way that it made it very easy for the police to clear people out the next day. So like there are so many people who jumped on board the Freedom Convoy who, in my estimation, were really there because it, they just wanted to look good, even though they didn't know what they were doing on the ground.
Yeah, like Benjamin says, he goes, "We accomplished it. It was the most peaceful thing ever. We accomplished it." He's like, "There will never be another convoy." I have to buy his book, by the way. I don't know if you have it and if
It's
you
good. Yeah, I
recommend
do
it.
have it.
It's a good read. Like it's some.
It's a really good, straightforward
Mhm,
telling of the story in a positive way. So it's
mhm.
not all of the drama in the background that I'm telling you about right now. Like I texted Tamara on the way to Ottawa.
Mhm.
I had her phone because she was the Maverick Party comms lead. By the way, when she was the Maverick Party communications lead, she literally mocked people or belittled people for caring about lockdowns and mandates and said that the Maverick Party's not going to get involved in this emotional debate. But I was telling her, like, hey, please tell Pat King to go home. He's a nutcase. All this stuff. Like, please tell this person to leave. Please don't let this person be in videos. Because, like, some of these people are just obviously grifters, like actual grifters, who are showing up just for the attention and have nothing to say.
Yeah, like they're bad actors, and then you have like the whole thing with like the supposed like the swastika thing, and then they made a big deal of it. Benjamin Dichter said it best. He goes, "Because I'm Jewish too," and it's like he's like, "I'm a Jew." He goes, and this one liberal MP who's begging for a position is like saying, "Oh look, it's anti-Semitism," and it's like, and they're putting more targets on like actual Jews when they say that for anti-Semitism. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
Yara
remember.
Sachs said that, and then she goes and shakes the hands of the man who, like the head of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank or whatever, who is a pay-for-slay program against Jews in Israel. It's like, yeah, Yara, yeah, I believe that honk honk means Heil Hitler.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. But to take it back to like the Bills, like where you said like so C18 hurt you because we just went on a tangent there and it was fun. That's what happens when you're passionate about this stuff. So so basically you've been on YouTube and you got involved with the BC Conservatives, and how was that experience like with that election?
That was good. At one point, that's like, huh? How much can I say about that? Well, I was working for somebody, one of
Yeah.
the candidates, for a while, and then I wasn't working for that candidate at some point. And so for the last 19 days of the election, I was bopping around because the HQ still wanted me there. It was a lot of fun because obviously I come from Alberta politics. I've run my own federal nomination before, so I have a good amount of experience door knocking, running campaigns, and it was fun. In the last week of the campaign, I jumped on Lawrence Mock's campaign in Maple Ridge East, and we ended up getting him across the finish line by only 103 votes. And I kind of came in right at kind of the right time, simply because like he had a good manager and good volunteer coordinator. The problem was is that those two guys were not able to get a second off of work in the last week. Like the last day on election day they had more time, but for the last week of like handing out literature and coordinating volunteers, it was really difficult for them. But yeah, that was good. It's fun when you know that if you didn't show up, certain things wouldn't have happened. And so I think I end up helping not only mobilize a lot of people in the ridings that I was helping in, but obviously, and it's just how it works. The videos probably do help increase our turnout because people feel in the know about the election. Because obviously, I'm not going to pretend that my videos are like turning a bunch of people from the BCNDP to conservatives, or they used to be centrists who weren't going to vote. Now they're conservative. Most of the people watching my videos are partisan conservatives, but it is true that people's turnout in elections goes down the more local a race gets. So federal is super high, even though your chance to actually affect an outcome, the higher the office goes up, is lower. But people don't vote for their like local school board trustee or their counselor like at a high rate. But I think I at least was able to turn out more like turnout throughout the entire province by actually, keeping people in the know of what the polling looks like, what's David Eby doing, what's John Rusted doing. Because feeling informed is, I think, the main thing that empowers people to then go and vote. It's not because people don't know there's an election. I feel like people feel unqualified to show up and vote because they haven't really been following it.
Yeah, no, it's definitely important to make them feel. You don't want to feel like you're lecturing them. You want to make them feel informed, and then yeah, it's all about empowering in the little steps, even for those who don't have the time or attention span.
Yeah. Yeah, and so and it's not because like, we talked about this before we even started recording. It's not like I don't think my show is successful, and I would hope that I could describe it as successful so far as I've been running it. But it's not like I'm telling people things that are like shocking truths. If anything, I hate the word truth these days because you have so many people like I'm a truth teller. It's like no, it's just your opinion. It's like I try and be correct, but it's not like I'm blowing people's minds with things I'm saying. Half the time, it's just hopefully I have a better way of phrasing something that you're already thinking, and it makes it more enjoyable to listen to because like, obviously Justin Trudeau sucks. is not exactly a profound statement, but hopefully I can at least describe what Justin Trudeau is doing in such a way that you can be like, you know what, I can say that to my Liberal family member and maybe they'll finally get it.
Yeah,
Not that my statements Justin Trudeau sucks. Don't just go.
No. It's basically like getting them to say this is why so and so is a terrible political leader. Here's the reasons, and you're saying in a way that gets them to go, okay, I understand. Instead of where the family members like discrediting you, calling you the isms, the the whatever.
Yeah, or like that stupid clip from Andrew Perez from some liberal strategy firm saying
dude, I thought he was actually sane. He was on the Stephen LeDrew show, and I saw that, and I just facepalmed myself. I was like, Andrew, and just to quote you here, it's like, Andrew, baby, come on. What the hell?
Well, he's just saying there like this is misogynistic. If you like, in terms of like, I think we're talking about the same clip. Andrew Perez saying that Pierre Poilievre is sexist or misogynistic.
Yeah, I saw
because
that.
he disagrees with a female reporter, a female like commentator who's like it was like she was cruising for Poilievre to say far worse things to her than just saying, "Did you even wake up? Were you even awake on Monday?" Because she's out there trying to like claim that, well, you know that 1 million people were able to access dental care this year because of the universal dental care program. It's like, that's not true. No, since the program started, 1 million people have gotten dental care. That is not 1 million people access the program. Oh, you know that a lot of people offer universal dental. No, they don't. They actually do not. I know tons of people who run their own dental firms and they do not actually take it. I don't know where these statistics come from, like 87% of dentists now take it. Remember, it was only like 3 or 4 months ago when in the Maritimes, I think it was outside of Newfoundland, I think that was the only one they left out, or it was like Nova Scotia, but in like a big collection of the Maritime provinces, less than 1% of dentists were taking it. I don't think it got up to 87%. I think, like so many other times that Liberals spew out statistics, it's some cooked stat where they messed with the metrics, and if you mess with the metrics enough, you can anything looks like it's a great program. I always love when people come out and they're like, well, the carbon tax has only accounted for 0.5% of the increase in food prices over the past 4 years. It's like nonsense. I know how they do this stuff. It's because CPI is a stupid measure of like food prices. Because what CPI does is every 4 quarters, because they measure it quarterly, if your basket of $100 worth of groceries technically should be $150 because all the food prices go up, but you buy cheaper replacements, well, you're only buying $105 worth of groceries. So really your grocery price increase has only been 5%, and the carbon tax is only 0.5 of that 5%. It's like, okay, but if you were paying the full 150, it would have been more like 3 or 4% of the increase. But whatever, it drives me up the wall whenever people can just find some really awkward angle of looking at an issue to pretend that the problems aren't the problems.
Yeah, and it's like, I gotta ask this because obviously now I'm gonna take it to the election. I said, guys, we're gonna be all over the place here because Wyatt and I've been looking forward to speak with Wyatt for a long time, and he's gonna be educating me on a few things today because I'm not the smartest guy. I'm a centrist. I'm fiscally conservative. That's where I identify. But even that's, hey, I was kind of like not attacked, but I was kind of like told off. Like, why do you vote conservative? I think I shared that with you, and I was like, and you're like, what the hell's wrong with people up here?
Yep.
And it's like a swear word. I don't get it. Like, why?
Are you in Montreal though?
I'm in Quebec. Yeah.
I could see that being a weird place to be voting conservative, considering that like even in Papineau, it's not like Trudeau's winning like a 20% victory over Conservative. The Conservatives are like the 5th place party in Papineau. They get 4%.
Yeah, no, but it's like, so it's basically like with what was I going to take it back to with the conservatism is like with the media, like they're just saying Pierre Poilievre this, Pierre Poilievre that, and it's like I have a feeling like the more you demonize him, and when they ask Liberal MPs like, what I thought Justin Trudeau's like resigning, like the guy Adam Kovrig. Yeah, I'm here to stop Pierre Poilievre from. I was like, what is what are the policies? Like, is this where we're at? Like,
is that like Olympic like rower
yes,
or whatever?
Yes,
that's all I know him as. He's just some guy who's like, yeah, I saw him. Wasn't he the one who claimed that like Poilievre is like a threat to democracy or something like that?
He's just openly saying. I'm like, that's like, guys, you're 20 points down in the polls.
It's not even true in the U.S., but all they do is they copy and paste whatever Democrats are saying, and it makes even less sense when you try and shift that narrative to Canada. What was, like, all their points against Poilievre suck. And here's the thing. This is conventional wisdom in conservative politics drives me up the wall. Aaron O'Toole, honestly, it's good that Aaron O'Toole happened because he ran the most conventional wisdom campaign I've ever seen. Red Tory conventional wisdom, be uncontroversial, don't jar people's ears with hard information, don't take hard stances that could freak people out, and he lost hard despite the fact that Trudeau, and I always get annoyed when people are like, oh, it doesn't matter, Justin Trudeau's still going to somehow win this next election. I'm like, guys, he barely won the last two, and it's not because he cheated. He lost 800,000, 900,000 votes between 2015 and 2019, and then lost a further 300,000 between 19 and 21. It's just that the Conservatives decided to underperform even harder than the Liberals did. But Aaron O'Toole proved all this stuff doesn't work, and Poilievre, on the other hand, is proving that being controversial is a smart move. Sometimes now, the Conservative Party under Poilievre does fear being controversial when that's how they get all their support. Be controversial. Like, I know they also get support because people hate Justin Trudeau, but people hated Justin Trudeau when O'Toole was the leader. Maybe they hate him more now, but still, I think that if you ran a more competent leader, 21 should have been a layup of an election. Yeah. But I find it obnoxious whenever, and I see this in all the campaigns I'm on, I tell people not to do it. Controversy is good. You want people talking about you. Do you not want to be talked about in politics? It's a game of name recognition. It's you want to sit in the background and hope people find you eventually. That's not how it works. I guarantee you, a third of people voting in the 21 election didn't even know who Aaron O'Toole was.
My late mom knew him. She kind of liked him. But the minute he made the comment, this isn't your father's Conservatives, that's when my mom was like, all right, I'm out. And then I voted PPC because I was fed up with the mandates. Too. It was giving a middle finger to the Conservatives, saying hey, get your acts together here.
That's also the thing I never like, and I mock the PPC all the time now because they do not do anything when the ball's passed to them. They get the ball and they just kill it. Because they do not try these days.
They'll just take the knife and just deflate it like this with the knife.
And they'll be eventually Canadians will score for us. It's no, you guys actually have to door knock. So Cloverdale, Langley City, they get 0.9% of the vote with 133 votes. Dude, one person trying 2 hours a day up to election day could have gotten 500 votes easily. It's because I guarantee you they did one photo op of going door knocking and that was it. Bernier just got the guy who ran the last 2 times to run again just to, make it look good. And it's you got to do more than that. You got to try. And so, but the thing is that, but I do defend the PPC. They're not the vote splitting party. They're not why the Liberals got in 2019 or 2021. Even if you gave every single vote split where the PPC made up the gap between the Conservatives and Liberals to the Conservatives, still wouldn't have made a difference. Conservatives still wouldn't have had the minority. Also, that's not how politics works. People didn't vote for you because they didn't vote for you. They didn't not vote for you because they voted for another party. There are very few examples where you could truly claim there was a vote split. Like in Ontario, and this is another one of those things with a bunch of what I would consider to be freedom grifters, in the sense that their whole brand is, I have been associated with freedom stuff in the past, now give me money. The Ontario party is very clearly just there to try and hurt the New Blue Party, because the New Blue Party has EDAs in every riding. They try and run candidates in every riding. They've better organized. They actually have policy documents and policy conventions. And then the Ontario party swings in order to basically make the third party category look like a clown show. And it's that's a very rare thing that happens when a third party is truly there just to muck things up for other people. But the PPC is not screwing stuff up for the Conservatives. It doesn't matter if 50 small parties start up. Poilievre's still going to win. Because guess what? People want to vote for him. They don't just not want to vote for the Liberals.
It makes sense. There's also this new party in Nova Scotia, the Dominic Cardiff. He was on the Ledru show, and then the minute I saw one comment that said, Dude blocks people from like commenting. This guy's not serious. Like the new whatever it's called. You probably saw it, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
He'll at least Dominic Carty will at least get back to me if I like direct message him about stuff. So that's always funny. But yeah, no, like it's I don't think it's a serious party. It's like the Canada Future Party. It used to be called Center Ice Conservatives. There's nothing to it. Again, it's a party for hardcore red Tories who truly believe like the Conservative Party's gone far right. And it's like, no, I don't know what these people think is a far right position. Like, I'd love for them to being opposed to gender theory is far right. Cutting wasteful spending is far right. Like, what part of all these are in effect moderate positions right now. And the thing is, I've said this tons of times. I hate the idea of the moderate voter. There is no such thing as a moderate voter. There is voters who care about different issues. Maybe you could say it's a bit more of a middle of the road voter. Sometimes middle of the road voters have extremely passionate views on specific issues. There's no, and this is why O'Toole loses. There's no voter who wants mild policy on everything. They usually want really hard and decisive policies on the things they care about, and the things they don't care about, they don't care about. And so, but if you have mild positions on everything, you are trying to win the demographic of people who don't vote at all because they don't care.
Yeah, like for me, like I'm a fiscal conservative. I identify as that. Like I'm not afraid to say it now because ever since like I posted my pic with Polyev, everyone's kind of like, wow. They're like, because also the reason too, like why people ask, why would you vote for Pierre? Wouldn't you change your mind? Just know what you're doing, And I was like, it's like, look, I've heard it all. And look, the truth is, here's the thing too. In the introduction, I said I'm the white autistic Charles Barkley as a joke.
You also look like actual justice warrior Sean Fitzgerald.
I'm sorry?
You also look like actual justice warrior Sean Fitzgerald.
Is that a good thing? Where does he rank? Where is he?
He's good. He's a conservative crime YouTuber in New York.
Okay. So basically, like, what I also liked about Pierre was when he gave a speech about what he wants to do for special needs children. Because too much, I'm very passionate about this because I think, the problem with, I'm sure, Wyatt, you have friends or have family members or peers that have those who are autistic. And the problem is a lot of autistic people are thrown as a statistic, and they're just given government like welfare, and they can never reach their full potential. And it's sad because my mom, who was a single mother after a very bad divorce, until my stepmom came in to tell my dad, like, hey, start being there for your kid and stop using him as a bargaining chip. She fought tooth and nail to get me the therapies I needed in order to become, I guess, as normal as possible. And Pierre said he wants to like get in like a bill to help that because autistic people are not statistics. They're humans just like myself. And look at me. I have a podcast. I work a full-time job. So I just kind of want to show like you can succeed even if you're dealt a difficult hand.
Well, and that's my thing I do a lot of I did my master's degree in public policy and my research paper was on crime. And the thing is that I find everyone turns everything into a material issue when it's not a material issue at all. So I basically showed that crime has very little to do with poverty. I can show you low-income neighborhoods that have no crime, and I can show you low-income neighborhoods that have high crime. Obviously, the poverty is not making people run out of the house and start smashing windows so they can go get bread. This is not Les Miserables. But the thing is that what the main factors are when it comes to low-income neighborhoods that have high crime is very low two-parent households. There's a high amount of single-parent households, and there is a low amount of educational achievement. And it really is that people need social structures and they need skill sets. And if you give them those two things, or even if you just give them one, it cuts all of the issues in half, like right away. And I could even prove that because if I go to Etobicoke riding, or like neighborhoods in Toronto where they have low single-parent households, but they also have lower educational achievement, the crime rate around there is half as much as somewhere like Weston, where single-parent household rates are very high and the educational achievement rate is very low. Mm-hmm. That's where it's like the worst. Like the crime's 8 times as bad as like neighboring neighborhoods.
So it's really about like investing in the community and education, like, giving those opportunities, like, explaining like, hey, do a sport. You never know what it can lead you to make them feel like they're part of something. So that's what you're getting at, right?
The best school in New York City was a charter school that actually operated for less money per student than the public system did. And it was mostly for inner city black students living in low income households and usually single parent households. But you had to wear a uniform at school. If you messed messed up, you're doing push-ups, and they basically wanted to drill you on everything that you were doing to make sure that you didn't leave the classroom not knowing your subjects. You knew your subjects, you had some minor homework to do, but they wanted you to do the work there, and they wanted you to learn like discipline. And those students they are literally the best students in New York City in like under grade 6. And it's just because people just need that structure. They need to know what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, you would be a terrible employee at any job where they just throw you in. Just figure it out. Just do what you want. It wouldn't work at a business, so why wouldn't it work at a school? To just say, just do it on your own time. It's like, dude, if you're paying somebody at a job and just saying, figure it out, they're not going to figure it out. They're just going to take the money to not figure it out. And if kids are being passed at school by not doing the work, they're just gonna get passed to not do the work. And that's where you get like crazy stats. And I'm gonna use an American example, but you get like Detroit schools where like the graduation rates, like in some of these districts, like 12%. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's terrible. Hopefully it can change and all. What do you think? Okay, so I've always said, I'm going to give plug in here, Cat Canada and Brittany. By the way, follow it's _by Brittany, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like by _ Brittany.
Yeah.
And then Cat Canada. Cat Canada is big enough for you to just type her name in. So hopefully we can all make it that far someday.
No, I think honestly, like, you guys are doing a very great job with, bringing conservatism to the mainstream and even to the young people. What do you feel? Do you feel there's a shift slowly happening? And that's also because of the incompetence of the government. As you said, like, they're the greatest salespeople to flock to the conservatives. So what do you feel is leading the shift for young people to go conservative now?
Yeah, I said that Justin Trudeau needs a lifetime achievement award from all these conservative organizations I was like naming yesterday, because like he's made the case for like free market economics better than anyone by just screwing stuff up so badly. But I think the big thing, like the big shift in politics, is men are becoming extremely conservative compared, like women more conservative these days, but it's just because the party's so popular, it's hard not to capture or still be winning the plurality of women. But the Conservative Party is like winning like 55% of men at this point. It's nuts. And then on top of that, they're winning 18 to 24-year-olds, 18 to 29-year-olds. Let's just use the bigger demographic. They're winning that group really hard. Honestly, the funny thing, and people don't realize this, the Liberal Party of Canada is a disproportionately older party, and it's always been that way. The NDP has always been the younger lefty party, because the Liberals' whole thing is that they care about like the pension. That they're the big pension party, grow pension benefits over time, but they don't do as radical things as the NDP would propose that like hurt homeowners. The Liberals are still bad for homeowners, they're still bad for a lot of people, but they're usually the less crazy party. And so that's why the Liberals and the NDP are both extremely unpopular compared to the Conservatives. They both have literally, even if you jam those two parties' support together in most polls, they still aren't even at where the Conservatives are these days. But younger people, I think, are just... It's not, I don't want to even be simplistic, but it is kind of true that the Liberals have become like the stuffy establishment party, and like the Conservatives are like the countercultural cool thing to be in favor of. There's a reason why Donald Trump can like walk into an MMA arena and have a bunch of people like cheering, and it's because he's fun. And I think Poilievre is fun. Nobody would be caring about Aaron O'Toole the way they care about Pierre Poilievre. And I think it's generally a good message that you can do things for yourself. You don't need the government to do it. The government's in your way. Let's let you actually live your own life. And I think that that's a far better vision than the Liberal saying you should be happy and cheering for higher benefits. It's like, what? That's sad. I'm just going to live for benefits, and if I want to work any harder, I'm going to get my money absolutely I'm gonna get like all my money taken away from me, basically. Like that's what a lot like the increase in capital gains is. It's like, don't try and be too successful.
Yeah, really, that capital gains tax really hurts people. Like, I mean, I have those in my, like talking about it much, but it's like,
if you ever try and buy a house, you're screwed. Like,
yeah,
in the sense that, what house are you not going to make more than $250,000 on?
Yeah, or like farms, like they're inheriting the farms, and it's like they go bankrupt because of the properties of like the farm, like it's all that. And then like, I want to ask this. Okay, this is a hot take here. So I've had a discussion with a few of my friends, and we always go back to the 2015 election, and we can never, I like doing what ifs. Let's say, what if 2015? You could disagree here. It was Harper, Layton, and Trudeau. not Mulcair, where do you think would have happened? Because I always get the conclusion, well, Harper would have won a minority. It would have been now a minority. Some say Layton would have pulled the upset and like would have upended Trudeau because of the inexperience. So I want to know what you think would have happened in 2015.
That's a good hypothetical. I've never thought of that. Off the top of my head, I'd assume actually it'd be another Harper majority, because I think that the surge of Trudeau and Layton would probably have taken each other out. Trudeau would probably end up doing better in Quebec, and I think Layton would do better in Ontario, because I believe in 2015 or 2011, Layton actually outright won the most seats in Ontario. And I think that Justin Trudeau in this hypothetical scenario would probably be really tied up in Quebec, trying to clean up all the NDP seats there first. You know, I mean, you kind of have to do, obviously you have campaign teams everywhere who are all working hard, but the leader has to expend energy and advertising dollars. And that's the funny thing about Canadian politics. This is my hot take. Canadian politics doesn't have enough money in it. We are the second biggest country by landmass, and we're definitely the biggest when you actually consider habitable territory, because nobody's living in Siberia, in Russia. But the thing is, we spend less collectively than like an Illinois governor's race for the entire country. And I think with that context, I think that Trudeau and Layton would have been too busy sort of jamming away at each other, trying to recover, like the Liberals are trying to recover NDP ridings, the NDP's trying to hold on to everything it has in Ontario. And I think that Harper may have gotten a minority, but I think he would have mostly just gotten a diminished majority government, because I think he would have been able to sneak through a lot of these ridings. And it's not as much of a vote split. I think it would have just been genuinely Layton and Trudeau would have been both equally popular. It would have honestly been like the most equal election ever, that every leader kind of has, I know Justin Trudeau sucks, but every party from a political perspective of winning elections would have had their ideal leader pretty much.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then 2019 would have probably been a bit of a different story, but we don't know. It's
you got to feel bad for Thomas Mulcair. That guy got thrown out after the 2015 election, and and Jagmeet gets 3 kicks at the can. I'm thinking that if he comes in second place by some fluke of seat count going his way, even though he's not going to win that many seats, even if he does get into second place, that he's gonna use that as an excuse to stick around.
Because he loves the camera time. Like, I mean, Tom Mulcair,
I don't think he cares about the pension.
No.
I think he is a TLC politician. He likes being on camera.
Yeah, that's very true. And it's like, I mean, Mulcair was like making sense. Like, Mulcair was able to work with, and probably, you probably don't like Jean Charest, but at the time when it was in the Liberal Party of Quebec,
he makes sense for Quebec.
Yeah, because Quebec is like it's very on the left. So anything that's like you bring to the kind of center could be seen as conservatism. But at the time, Charest and Mulcair worked together in the Liberal Party to dethrone the PQ. And it worked. It was kind of, and he was great, Mulcair. He's a very nice guy. Like, he's very approachable, apparently.
Yeah, like he's overall really nice. Obviously, he still has to, in some cases, be an NDP partisan, but he's like a reasonable guy that you can disagree with, you can disagree with, and it's no big deal. Jagmeet Singh's just really fussy. That's the only thing I really think when I see him. He seems fussy.
Yeah, he's a character. When it comes to the future of the Liberal Party, because I know you've done videos on this, and I really want to ask this. I'm hearing that the potential successors are the following: Dominic LeBlanc, Melanie Joly, Anita Anand. Sean Fraser's out because he resigned. Basically, he's going to go into probably provincial politics.
Yeah,
and then there's Christy Clark, who's going in Carleton, apparently, saying, we're going to take out Pierre Poilievre. I have a guy that's going to do... And I'm just thinking of, like...
Yeah, they're like backing Bruce Fanjoy, who seems to have blocked like half the population of the world at this point on social media.
And he's like just using the phrase from like Trudeau Sr., just watch me beat Poilievre. And I'm like, no. It's like, who do you think is going to be the successor of the Liberal Party?
Yeah, none of those people. Even if they are, none of those people. Even if one of them wins, are they really the successor, or are they just a placeholder until they find someone else because they're going to lose the next election? Like, all of these people are like ballot box poison. Like, fentanyl and asbestos pull higher than most of these people in terms of approval ratings. It's nuts. Like, who cares about Christy Clark at all? I feel waves of apathy come over me as I'm thinking of these people in politics. Like, Chrystia Freeland? Really? Anita Anand? Melanie Joly? Who cares? I don't understand what the appeal of any of these people are. And it's because they're basically all corporate strategy firm employees, effectively. They say safe things, they know how to work a cocktail party, and that's basically their set of skills. They are LinkedIn bots as people.
So it's got to be probably an outsider, because even though you don't agree with Warren Kinsella, like someone said, it's going to be this person, and Warren said, no, it's going to be none of the above. It's going to be an outsider, probably.
Or it's going to be someone from like the backbenches who just grows a spine and just goes for it. No, I mean, they'll maybe have another Quebecer try and go for it, like Joel Lightbound or something like that. Or I think that is true that I think that the next leader also could be like a massive anti-Semite, because that's proven to be a vote getter in a lot of left-wing circles. Just be the super pro-Palestine, like Hamas did nothing wrong guy, and you can maybe go around to enough small communities and win a lot of votes for that kind of a candidate. The Green Party almost had that candidate in Damien Lascaris, who's literally like a flat-out both pro-Hamas, pro-Russia guy. He literally does work for like RT.
So it's gonna be it's gonna be interesting to see what happens. Where it just seems like the Conservatives are able to like just keep the structure going. I mean, right now
I think the Conservatives at least get 2 terms.
Yeah, I'd say so. And it's going to give time for the NDP and the Liberals to really rebuild. Man, Jack Layton must be rocking in his grave right now with what turned into the NDP.
Well, and to be fair, the Jagmeet Singh is actually a very generic NDP leader. Go watch like the 2000 federal election debate. He comes off like the type of person they used to put up. He's Sikh, so he's like visually interesting when you look at him. But he's kind of like the overly sanctimonious like woman that usually was the NDP leader back in the day, where it's some lady in a very bright orange pantsuit who's like talking about how, well, why doesn't anyone talk about social services on this debate stage? And it's like, okay, I get it. Okay. Let's hear what Chrétien and Stockwell they want to say now. And yeah.
Yeah, the Chrétien era, that's what I grew up in. And I wanted to ask you, how does the Western Canada view Jean Chrétien, honestly, in terms of...
I think oddly enough, even though he's a liberal and people wouldn't have liked a lot of his policies, especially on guns and some social issues, overall, I think they would have respected him the same way people would like respect Ralph Klein. They actually cut the budget. Maybe both Ralph and Jean Chrétien were kind of forced to cut the budgets because of the debt crisis in the 90s, but like they cut the budget. Jean Chrétien technically cut the budget of the federal government by a larger rate than the Alberta government did or the Ontario government. He cut the federal budget by like 27-30%. And I think a lot of people end up seeing him as kind of like the old style blue liberal prime minister back when the Liberals were actually somewhat still classical liberals.
And you also had to, before that, to take it further, how do they view Mulroney? Because Mulroney's seen as like kind of a controversial prime minister, but there's things that I like that he did, that he had vision-wise for the country.
I think in Western Canada, he seems like the guy who just, in certain ways, Brian Mulroney was really good, and then in other ways, he kind of was like the Nazi equivalent of Aaron O'Toole, or at least that's what he turned into. It turned into the party that, in a certain sense, even though the Bloc Québécois rose because, oh my goodness, Brian Mulroney's betraying Quebec, but in the West, he would be seen as somebody who's playing to Quebec too much, and also he's playing to Eastern Toronto voters too much, and people are thinking, hey dude, remember who your base is, and that's why the Reform Party ended up coming up in 1989 and 1988. They only got 2% in the 88 election, but then they won a by-election to 1989. Hey guys, PPC, it's possible. You can win by-elections. You can, work hard, whatnot. My goodness. So Brian Mulroney, I think, ended up being the guy who was like the prime minister for nobody into that later period of his leadership. And then that culminated in, of course, Kim Campbell becoming the prime minister for like a few months.
Yeah, I looked her up, and it's like, there's not much videos on her either, like on YouTube, apparently. It's like, is she just kind of really that much of a footnote in Canadian political history?
Oh, she's like Sherry DeNovo, but from like the PCs, in the sense that she's just some yappy whiner these days. always has something snarky to say about whatever conservative says. It's like, okay, Kim, settle down. I don't care. And then she kind of goes around pretending that she was a legitimate prime minister. Like, you think dude, you help screw things up. Just dance back quietly. Go on vacation quietly for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I remember she made that video of like mocking Chrétien's face because Chrétien has like a stroke, and that ad like really shot the PCs in the foot after, because then Chrétien like shrugged it off and made a joke about it.
Who was that? That was the mayor of Toronto, the former mayor of Toronto before Olivia Chow. That was his idea. The video.
That did not work out well, and then that period of Canadian history is just such. Everything happens so fast. Like, you have the fall of the Soviet Union that definitely like changed things in the world. Mulroney's downfall due to Charlottetown and Meech Lake, and also just the Reform Party. Then you have the referendum of '95. That like. Yeah, how does the West view the referendum?
Wasn't it 97? There was 95 and 97. 97 was like the real squeaker.
95 was the real squeaker, actually.
It was? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyways, but sorry, what do you say?
How does the West view about 1995? Because I've had in my work, some of the customers I spoke with, they're I had one guy that basically said to me, he's like, look, he goes, you should leave Quebec. My family's in Ontario. I'm a former Francophone businessman, and I left to the West because I didn't want to pay the language tax. I didn't want to deal with the circus. And I'm like,
I think that 95 and just all this Quebec separatism stuff in places like Alberta is like viewed as cute. Like, that's really cute, guys, that you want to separate and make your own country, but you guys don't even pay for any of your own social services right now in terms of the equalization payments that go towards Quebec, that they can't survive on their own. So I think that out here we all see it as, like, oh my goodness, you guys almost separated. They probably wouldn't have even separated even if the vote went through, because as soon as they realize, okay, we need our own currency and we have to figure out how to pay for everything, it's going to go out the window pretty fast. And so I think that, to us, we kind of see it as a bit of a laugh. You also wanted to talk about a bit about Western Canada and kind of Western Canadian history, because obviously you were telling me that Quebec doesn't really teach a lot of Western Canadian history.
No, it's very vague. It's just like...
To be fair to them, Alberta and Saskatchewan have only existed since 1905 in terms of actual provinces. And I think the most interesting thing about the West, if anyone's looking into it, although this is something that Quebec and Alberta are united on, is going back and looking up the social credit movement is always that kind of uniquely Western Canadian thing that Quebec also, for some reason, did too, of the kind of farmer type culture that you end up getting in the West. It very much is kind of like the Iowa of Canada, and then kind of turns into the Texas of Canada. But I always say that Alberta it would be like if Idaho played Texas in a movie and it was being directed by Wyoming and Colorado, and the producer was Colorado. And so that's what I always think of Alberta as. But I think that, like, because of where Western Canada is in relation to the rest of the country and the geography, it always has been the province that's probably destined to be the most pro-freedom. Frankly, not a lot of geography hemming you in, not a lot of need for government regulations in how you do stuff. I can see how government can be more appealing when you live in Vancouver, somewhere where it's actually very difficult to build houses, because outside the valley that you live in near the coast, you can only build upward. So it kind of, there is a little more of an argument that, well, the government does need to be kind of there to manage things along, or else we'll very quickly run out of space for people to live. But in Calgary, we can just keep building out. Everyone can have their own single family detached house, which is perfect. It's great for families. That's actually the big risk of blanket rezoning in my mind. If you incentivize too many people to build like sixplexes and whatnot, eventually you'll run into the wall where you're like, why does nobody have kids? It's like, maybe it's because everyone lives in an 800 square foot closet. Maybe that's why. Because we never had high, expensive homes back in the day. Before, when we had zoning laws, you could only build in single family detached houses in a lot of these areas, and somehow the housing was cheap because you made it easy to build when you were allowed to build. But now they don't want to make it easier to build across Canada because, that reduces the amount of need for stupid government regulatory positions and bureaucrats. And so Instead, they just allow you, and now I'm really going down a rabbit hole, but what they do is now is they allow you that if you do get to break Earth on something, at least you can build something bigger, even though you still have to jump through all the same regulatory hoops that justify us keeping a bunch of stupid people employed.
What a mess. That's where I could see the Colorado part comes in here. Wow. It's like, but I would plan to move to Alberta, honestly. Like if it gets really hot in Quebec, because yes, as we've seen, the PQ is going to make a comeback. I don't think they're going to separate, but they're just going to bring in more language laws. That's the problem with Quebec.
And again, I think that there's enough Quebecers who probably actually like the Conservatives these days, like way more than they used to. So I think there's always going to be that sliver of Quebecers who, if there was ever another referendum, would hard vote no, because they'll probably end up liking what Poilievre does federally. And it doesn't matter, oh, he's not being pro-Quebec enough. He's like, he's probably going to be pro-Canadian enough that you guys are going to be doing well. So what's the point of, jumping up and trying to leave because you might not like that he's not actively giving special benefits to Quebec? It doesn't matter.
No, it makes sense. It's a mess. It's really crazy, but you make sense of everything. You and Brittany, even if you don't agree with them, guys, like I would have a leftist on as long as we're having a conversation like we're having, instead of like saying, "Did you know?" Like I love when Karina Gould just talks. I love how you describe Karina Gould. Like that woman is infuriating to me for me to hear.
The worst one is Jenna Suds. Jenna Suds is terrible.
Yeah,
Jenna Suds talks to people like they're lobotomized.
They got to stop
Have you ever been at school and felt hungry? Felt like you didn't have enough snacks throughout the day? And it's like, she's like 5 seconds away in this like video I watched of her to like just explaining how digestion works. Are the stomach acids in your stomach not breaking down some carbohydrates to get you through this math test? It's like, just stop talking. The front bench of the Liberal Party, to be as rude as possible, has way too many mediocre women in it. And I know that sounds rude, but like there would be a leftist on the other side saying there's too many mediocre white men in this government if it was another way. But Trudeau just keeps appointing people to the front bench just because he wants that gender balance. And it's like, guys, there's probably times where there probably should be more women than men in the front bench because you just have that many really good people in your cabinet who are women. But like, man, right now, so many people in the Liberal Party, and really none of their people are good. Arif Virani's a terrible justice minister.
He just comes off so aggressive.
There are so many women who talk like student counselors, who talk like student union activists.
They got talk to people like they're adults. That's what we want. Like Michelle Ferreri, for example. You don't have to like her. I like Michelle Ferreri. I like the way she communicates.
She's cool.
She is cool. Like, I hope she wins, man. Like, she better win Peterborough. She has my endorsement from Quebec. So if she ever watches this, hey, you have my vote. And also Matthew Kaminsky from the Conservative, who's coming up in that NDG Westmount. He's coming on the show too. So see, I'm giving voices to the Conservatives, guys. So
I like him.
Yeah, he's cool. He's awesome. And take it to video consoles. You see, this is how much fun these conversations are when they're just like, it's always jiving. Wyatt, you're a video game connoisseur, collector of sorts. So what is your most proud thing in your video game collection?
So I own an original Nintendo Entertainment System, like the gray brick for context. And I think I own around like 12 to 13% of the entire collection of games ever released for that thing, which is pretty good considering it has like 850 games for it. But yeah, that's one of my background hobbies. I haven't bought anything in a while. Like I buy antiques and whatnot, but like for video games, I think I have like 8 or 9 classic consoles that I buy varying amounts of games for. So it's like NES, SNES, Genesis, PS1, N64, GameCube, original Xbox, and then there's a couple more there I'm forgetting. There's a couple more. Yeah.
And do you feel like these kinds of hobbies help like mentally like keep going with what you do? Because like I think in order to do what you do, you got to have some sort of hobby that disconnects you from this stuff.
I just like doing it. I'd probably still just keep doing politics even if I had no other hobbies. I'm a bit psychotic. I'll just keep doing it regardless. I don't have feeling. I just do. I'm a bit robotic that way. But honestly, I do like stupid hobbies like that because, frankly, every time I must seem more academic than I am because half the time when I'm editing a video, I'm just like playing a video game or something like that. I'm a Zoomer. So like I'm sitting there like at least playing like Teamfight Tactics on like League of Legends or something like that while I'm making videos. And every Christmas, and maybe I'm going to make it a tradition that I'm always going to like play through a bunch of NES games and just like take photos of whatever I'm doing. But yeah, but that's the thing. I like all the console collecting because it's all interesting and fun. I need to go buy an Atari at some point.
I collect some of the game guides because now, even though you have the internet, the game guides are just fun to read. They're just to like look at the art, look at the pictures, like what.
Oh, I like I have a bunch of old Nintendo Powers and whatnot.
Oh, I used to read those actually. Yeah, no, my mom used to buy them for me all the time. Like, I want to collect the '90s ones. Like, I want to collect just the year of 1995 through 1997.
Yeah,
I don't know why.
I started collecting all this because, like a lot of people who are like on YouTube in the early days, I started watching people like the Angry Video Game Nerd, and so that's when I ended up getting all of this stuff because it seemed interesting enough. And I have like mint condition boxes for like Battletoads and other games and stuff like that. And you go to pawn shops, it's like $5 because the person doesn't even know what they have. And it's like, I think that one is like truly one where you could sell it for like $500 and that would be like fair. I'm gonna look that up right now. Let's just see what that would be cost.
Yeah, let's just see what it costs here. He's looking at what the cost of Battletoads is.
Yeah.
Mint. For those who want to know.
Yeah, we're gonna go on eBay.
eBay's amazing, by the way. I love eBay.
Okay, I have one that looks like mine in terms of like the box quality.
Yeah.
$185 American, so that's good.
Yeah, that's not bad. That's like what, $300 Canadian now since our dollar's in the gutter.
Yeah, or something. That's like a down payment on a house at this point.
Wow, yeah, our dollar we're really turning into the G7 only in name until like change happens. It's gotta change. And another thing I have to ask is, like, obviously, you're very vocal on Twitter. How do you deal like with online like haters or like those like who just mock you? You're used to it, or?
I literally just don't care. Like, I'm actually somebody who just doesn't feel much about anything like that. It's just, here's a great piece of advice from my showrunner Daniel Wardman. If someone says I love you and you're the greatest, blah blah, it just means I agree with you. And if someone's like, I hate you, you should kill yourself, blah blah, I disagree with you. It just means I disagree with you. Because if you just slightly tweaked your opinion, they would be saying the opposite, even if the quality of what you were saying was not any higher.
That's a good way of looking at it. Like, I remember, like, I commented on something and someone was like, edit all, and they even commented on my appearance, like, with me in front of the microphone. I was like, it's like, whatever. It's like, you just gotta go. It's
lame. You can literally see the person sitting in their chair, like, thinking of, okay, what do I say about them? What do I say about them? It's like, that they're just sitting there thinking of things to try and make you upset. It's too... If you think about the mental process they're doing, it becomes too bureaucratic of a process of them trying to insult you. Because I know what they're doing, so who cares? I mean, it's corny as hell. I don't care.
Duh, that's true. And lastly, I gotta ask, what's the future hold for you with the National Telegraph? Because it seems like you're teaming up with Brittany now. So what's the plans for that?
Well, that's just a little side podcast I might do with a lot of people. Brittany, I have to go finally buy Final Cut Pro, the full version again. I had the free trial for 90 days, and because I was so broke at one point, after the 90-day trial ended, I'm like, okay, so I can't do that anymore, so I can't do edited content, so I had to find a way of doing content without editing, and I still had my StreamYard account that I actually did pay for as well, but, I was at the start of that year-long subscription. And so I just started jamming away at StreamYards, where they have a pre-record feature rather than live streaming. You could just pre-record it. And so then I had to start doing a show like it's a radio show, where I would just record it the way we're doing this interview, and I would just trim the first and last second of the whole thing in order to make it presentable, so people don't see me like sitting there like clicking the button at the very end. And that's really it. But I have an interview with Brittany I have locked and loaded that I'm going to do a bunch of editing on, because we sit around like looking at really cringy like PPC and liberal tweets like praising Maxime Bernier or Justin Trudeau and talking about why these posts are unappealing and weird, and I just need to edit them so that they appear on screen, because it's literally just us looking at my laptop with nothing on screen, so I'll just edit what we're looking at as we go.
That's epic, and she's really good. Like, and what I like about that is, you're very experienced in politics. She's like, I don't want to say she's a noob. That's very rude. But
she calls herself, to be fair, she calls herself a noob.
Yeah, but I don't.
Or like naive.
Yeah. I would say like she's up and coming, and I think like you and her like would work very well together.
I can say that as somebody who obviously knows her in real life too. She's actually very savvy. She knows not to trust certain people in a sense that everyone would usually sidle up to somebody because, oh my goodness, they have name recognition and whatever, and this person, people know that. She doesn't do that, which is really good, which like very few people who get into politics early can avoid, is that, oh, this person has a name and brand, so I'm just going to embrace them. She doesn't like the background politics stuff, and it rubs her the wrong way in the way that it's, you know, it's good to see that somebody gets involved and they don't just start saying, oh, well, this person said this, so I'm going to do that.
That's very true. So that's really good that you guys are doing. And what's the plan aside from trying to hit 100,000 subscribers by end of 2025? What's the future holding for a National Telegraph, provided C-18 gets reappealed and cut up and whatnot?
Well, I'm probably going to do more writing at some point. I can even look at my tabs right now. I have an article I want to release at some point, even whether C-18's not repealed. I'll probably start writing a bit more just because you don't want to get too rusty. And of course, I'm probably going to jump back into running for office myself at some point because, frankly, I probably would have won in Calgary Signal Hill, which is probably one of the tougher nominations this entire cycle. But party advisors, or one of them, basically got me kicked out of the race trying to get their own ally, or their ally of their circle, jammed in. And joke's on them because the guy they wanted in still lost because I mobilized all my people against them. But, you know, the thing is that eventually I was running with maybe 13,000 people following my channel, 14,000 people. Next time I end up trying to run with, 75,000 or 80,000 or 120,000, it's going to be a way easier time, because even if you're running in a specific area and most people that live around you don't watch your show because your support is shotgunned around, winning a nomination with 100,000 people who watch you on YouTube or subscribe is going to be way easier. Because think about it just this way, and let's just do the math right here. If you have 40,000 people and you can start averaging like 40,000 people who watch videos from you, which is not unheard of because some of the other guys who are at like 120,000 can like average like 80,000 views per show. But if you have 40,000 people watching a video and there's 343 ridings, even though I'm probably not going to have a lot of Quebecers watching me or people in the territories, that's still 116 people per episode who live in your riding watching you, who then can have their entire family sign up for memberships. So in a single episode, in theory, assuming that some people might drop off after 30 seconds, they don't hear your pitch, running for office with like 100,000 people subscribe to you would be like way easier than what I had when I was like running with 14,000 people following me, where sometimes you're only getting like 5,000, like 3,000 people watching certain videos.
Amazing. Well, Wyatt, I'm really thankful you took the time to come on. Like, I feel like when I speak to you, you're kind of like a friend that I've known for a long time, and that you got to keep that vibe up. That's why you'll do very well with others. And I'm obviously would say, guys, make sure to help him hit 100,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
he owes dinner to people. Things are very expensive in Canada right now, so let's try to keep our costs low in 2025. Be frugal. So Wyatt, where can people connect with you as you're growing?
Obviously, easiest place, YouTube, the National Telegraph, and then on X, you can go follow me at Wyatt Claypool. Then I also have some Wyatt Claypool pages on Facebook. It's like I think it's just the Wyatt Claypool Canadian Politics one I'd recommend. The Wyatt Claypool Canadian Journalism one I don't use because for some reason Facebook has rejected my ads account on that, so I can never run ads if I ever want to.
Interesting. And guys, if you love this conversation, it's the first political conversation. Wyatt, you will always have that feather in the cap of the first political guest, so take that with honor. Whether your name is Wyatt, whether it's Brittany, Cat Canada, even Liberals and NDP, if you guys want to come on, as long as we're going to have a conversation like this, I'm going to let you talk. You don't have to agree with me, vice versa. Make sure to hit the like, share, subscribe button to the Drewsperience. Yes, it's martial arts based, but still, I think it's important to change it up because at the end of the day, we're all one at the end of the day. So might as well hit the like, share, subscribe, and support Wyatt Claypool. 100K by December. Drewsperience approved. And he's going to be running in the next federal election. Not 2025, maybe 2029. So make sure to vote for him then, because this guy is going to be killing it. And he would make an excellent MP. And also, he should be on the social media team for the Conservatives.
Well, thanks.
All right, well, Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. I'm not going to say Kwanzaa. I had to say happy Hanukkah there. That was funny what you said yesterday. But happy and Merry Christmas, everyone, and keep it real.